Welcome to News in today. Exciting news last night. Obviously, games and news are abound as the start of the NFL season, and we got off to a pretty good start. Chiefs and Ravens in a battle last night. Obviously, missed by a toe. We'll get into that in just a moment. But breaking news now is that Jalen Ramsey has wrecked the cornerback market yet again in the NFL. Patrick Surtain just days ago become the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. He is now surpassed by a Jalen Ramsey extension with the Miami Dolphins. That 3-year extension is worth $24.1 million per year to make him the highest paid cornerback in NFL history for a second time in his career, according to Adam Schefter. The deal negotiated by David Mulgeta of Athletes First. Mulgeta, excuse me. It seems like they were working on this for several weeks, talking about an extension. And once the Surtain deal came in to actually reset the market, it gave them impetus to extend Jalen Ramsey. He turns 30 next month, so not a young player, but still one of the top corners in the league. And I think obviously a great thing for the Miami Dolphins to create some stability on the defense after losing a key piece like Christian Wilkins in the offseason. It's a good momentum for them going into this season. So back to last night's game, we had the Chiefs and the Ravens. Clearly the big news there was Lamar Jackson once again continuing to run. I think you should out of a game like that because it's a very tough place to go and win time of year there on a celebratory night like the Ravens had to. A very tough environment. I thought the offense was a little bit herky-jerky, a lot of Lamar trying to create plays on his own. Isaiah Likely had a massive game. On the flip side for the Chiefs, Rashee Rice, clearly a big part of the passing offense. It doesn't have to be the Travis Kelce show anymore because Rice and Isaiah Pacheco carried the load last night. Mahomes making key plays. Lamar missing wide open Zay Flowers / Rashad Bateman in the end zone, but he did hit Isaiah Likely, just missed by that much. So tough start for the Ravens in terms of taking an L, but I think the prospects for them this season are really good as long as they can try to protect Lamar Jackson a little better than they have been, as you see right there, toe so close. Isaiah Likely thought he had it. There was a celebration, but just out. Good call. Are the NFL cameras. So got a clip here from Patrick Mahomes talking about last night's victory.
No, definitely nerve-wracking. Could it look good from my angle on the sideline? But then the first view you saw, you could see the cleat. So that's a great football team, and I'm sure we'll see him again at some point in the playoffs. So now we're happy with the win now, and he's got to wear white cleats next time. That's my advice for him. I think it's just I think everybody accepts everybody in this offense, and they learn so much from Trav. They pick his brain, and they listen to him talk to me, and we build all throughout the year. And you can see Rashid just kind of picked up right where he left off last year. Xavier made some big plays. And so it's just we're going to continue to build and then hopefully get Hollywood back and see what this offense can really be. 100%. Just having him out there, it just opens up stuff. You saw when he's out there, they're playing shell coverages. It's getting guys like Trav and it's getting guys like Rashid open underneath. And that's what's so great about this offense is we're able to do all of that. And that's when we're at our best. And so, like I said, we get Hollywood out there too. It's going to be tough for defense to decide who they want to cover.
So the Chiefs covered last night, obviously just slightly over the total, which came in around 46.5. So it depends where you got it, but 47 was the total last night. Here's John Harbaugh talking about the disappointment of starting off the season with a loss.
I think Isaiah played just a great football game, a courageous game. I made so many plays, especially down the stretch, play after play. I put Lamar obviously in the same category. All those guys. Those guys were making plays and fighting. The offensive line, I thought, did a heck of a job out there. A lot of question marks that, the pundits and the prognosticators had about the offensive line, saying that with that offensive line, we couldn't do anything. And to see the way they went out there and played against that defense, I thought was pretty impressive. And that's a challenge, especially in this environment. Communication, and there were problems on both sides. But I thought Isaiah played a great football game. I was proud of him and a lot of other guys, too.
All right, turning the page from last night into tonight's game, which can be found exclusively on Peacock. In Sao Paulo, Brazil, the Eagles will take on the Green Bay Packers. Eagles favored by just under a field goal, total of 49.5. Going to be exciting. The Eagles closed out the season losing 6 of their last 7 games. The Packers closed out last season winning 7 of their last 10, including a blowout victory on the road in Dallas in the playoffs. But can year number 2 of the full year of Jordan Love and that young receiving core reap even more rewards? We'll see tonight in Brazil. I'll tell you what I like in that game. Given the fact that it's such a late start, 9:15 p.m. Eastern, and the teams have had to travel all this way, I'm going to lead towards my primetime under. Both offenses are explosive. I'd love nothing more than to see a lot of points on the board. I just think it's a little bit tricky considering all the travel and the start of the game. I think we'll see it a little under that pretty high total of 49.5. So give me a primetime under tonight. As we move on to other stories, big news in college and college business, which is that the settlements that have been talked about in the NCAA have now hit a little bit of a snag in that the judge has now basically sent it back to the lawyers to figure out if there's even a deal in place. So all of these settlements that we think could move us into another era of college athletics are on hold. U.S. District Court Judge Claudia Wilkin won't rule on the House settlement following yesterday's hearing and throw it back on the lawyers to find something workable. I think it seems likely to me that there will be a settlement, according to a lot of the parties involved. But we have to talk about, this is NCAA counsel Rakesh Kilaru, we have to talk about whether we have a deal. The NCAA counsel says they don't want to finalize the Hubbard settlement without doing the House settlement. The House plaintiffs say that's not the case. So a lot of lawyering going on. It's my opinion, and I have a lot of experience in this topic. It is my opinion, not that I'm an attorney, but I have a lot of experience following this and knowing the NCAA businesses pretty well. I think we're headed towards a settlement. It's just a snag in the process, and we'll get there eventually. So moving on, Xavier Babudar, a.k.a. Chiefsaholic, famous for wearing a wolf uniform in the stands at 30 years old, is sentenced to 17 years in prison for robberies. He would apparently go on the road where the Chiefs were playing, rob a bank in that area, and then take off with whatever money he was able to find. So he seems remorseful about it, but he's going to be remorseful for a really long time because he'll be in prison for 17 years. Steelers, Russell Wilson, limited in practice due to calf tightness. We're going to talk injuries a little bit later in the hour with Dr. Chow on some other injuries, but this is a tough start to the season. The Steelers already I don't think any Steelers fan, including me, are particularly confident in the quarterback situation, and have one of them, the starter, entering the season with perhaps a minor injury isn't great. In other quarterback news, Dak Prescott does not see Sunday's season opener against the Cleveland Browns as some sort of contract deadline to getting an extension finalized. I think it's a good thing. The good news for Cowboys fans is Dak is not of the opinion that, well, we didn't negotiate by opening day, so we're just going to let it play out and we'll see what happens after the season. I think it's an indication that both parties want to see a conclusion to this negotiation, and they are willing to talk about it during this season. Are welcoming in Jim Gazzale from Sports Report. Find him on X at Jim Gazzale. So, Jim, good to see you. NFL season underway. I know you're an excited Jets fan. We'll get to that in a moment. I know you're excited to boldly predict where they have never been before. So we'll see what we can pick up later on. But let's start in Massachusetts, where regulators will put Massachusetts sports betting limits on center stage by early October. Can you fill us in on those details?
Yeah, so Massachusetts sports betting regulators held an agenda-setting meeting earlier this week, and they marked September 11th, next Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday, for their roundtable with sportsbook operators to discuss wagering limits. And this has been a hot topic in Massachusetts for the last couple of months. Regulators started talking about this back in March. In May, they attempted to host a roundtable with operators who essentially blew them off. They did not show up. They did not attend the originally scheduled roundtable with regulators in Massachusetts. And that kind of upset the regulators, as you could imagine. Some of the commissioners believe a little bit of the early discourse between the sports bettors themselves, who were also invited to the roundtable, might have upset the operators and prevented them from wanting to show up initially. So they've kind of gone back and forth over the last couple of weeks and months trying to find a date where the sports betting apps, the operators, are expected now to attend this roundtable that is scheduled for next Wednesday. And what the regulators want to know is, what are the practices? How are the decisions being made around limiting sports bettors? And of course, Mike, as you know, and most everybody else listening most likely knows, what we're referring to is essentially successful bettors being told or forced to not be able to bet as much as they want, being limited to a couple of dollars per bet. And obviously that upsets a lot of the successful sports bettors, the professional sports bettors, and they had a lot of things to say during that initial roundtable that the operators blew off. So a lot of back and forth over the last couple of weeks, but we do have that date set for Wednesday, September 11th, next week, where the operators will get together with the regulators. Sports bettors will be there as well, along with some responsible gaming groups, to all sit down and hopefully have a nice, calm, and productive conversations around the strategies, the decisions, the processes around limiting sports bettors in Massachusetts.
Jim, the bottom line is, if a bettor gets limited, they don't have much recourse to be able to fight it. They can appeal to that particular operator, but if you happen to be, and I know some people that are in this position, a successful prop bettor, you're going to be limited to for example, you can't bet any more than $20 on any props, because they know if you have a high win rate, they don't want to be at risk if they put up a bad line, particularly on stuff like props, that they could be taken for a lot of money on a given day. So that's really where this happens, and the bettors don't have much recourse, correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. And I think what we've seen since Massachusetts legalized sports betting is that that group of commissioners, those regulators, are one of, if not the most open and public in their decision making. Every single meeting that they have is streamed live on YouTube through their website, and they're interested in hearing about these practices to see what they can do to help the public, help the bettor, and also make sure that everything is being followed to the letter of the gaming regulations in Massachusetts. So we'll see what that discussion brings next week. But I think what we've seen over the last handful of months is that the regulators in Massachusetts are always willing to have these types of conversations in a public forum.
Good stuff there. How about Saratoga? The summer racing season wraps up in Saratoga, and it was a good summer for them, correct?
Yeah, handle was up a handful of millions of dollars, 803.8 million bet on Saratoga races from mid-July through Labor Day, up a few million from last year, which was positive. The average daily handle was up about 3% as well. Sort of the big note for me coming out of the summer was Travers Day, their biggest day of the summer, $63 million in handle. And it just reconfirms and kind of continues the trend that we've seen in horse racing so far this year, where the big marquee mainstream events are the ones that are generating the most handle. We had record-setting handle on the Kentucky Derby. Preakness Stakes betting increased this year compared to last year. Record-setting Belmont Stakes handle for a non-Triple Crown year, and now we have the Travers Stakes with that increase in handle as well. And a lot of that early success this year during the Triple Crown season was driven in large part to the sports books entering the marketplace. FanDuel had a record-setting day of horse betting for the Derby. DraftKings and their DK Horse app was the most downloaded horse betting app on Derby Day. So these marquee events have really, carried the water for the racing industry so far this year. And, we'll see what ultimately happens at the end of the year here coming up in the fall with the Breeders' Cup. But for the most part, we've seen these marquee events really boost the handle overall for the industry, while some of the other smaller tracks that don't necessarily get a lot of national attention, are still, scrapping and clawing for whatever handle that they can get.
Yeah, eventizing and growing the size of the event is really key from a marketing perspective in a lot of different ways, right? On-site sales and tickets and concessions, as well as the tangential betting handles that happen around those events. So good news for Travers and Travers Day and Saratoga in general. Okay, Ohio, news in Ohio on the gambling front. What's going on with Ohio? Positive news, I presume.
Yeah, a couple of interesting notes coming out of Ohio from July. They were up. Handle was up 43% this year compared to July of 2023, which is a positive. It's a trend that we've seen across the country. Most markets, especially the larger ones, which I would lump Ohio in with those larger sports betting markets that we see around the U.S., just continuing to grow year over year, which is a positive. DraftKings had the most handle in the market for 3 straight months. And what was interesting to me about that was that they've been giving away fewer promotional dollars. So fewer free bets, fewer bet credits, odds boost, bonus bets, whatever you want to call it these days. They were giving away fewer of those than FanDuel and still were able to produce more volume. Where am I here? $15.2 million for DraftKings in terms of promotional spending compared to 19.6 for FanDuel. Though, while DraftKings does have that volume edge over the last couple of months since May, FanDuel has definitely outpaced them in terms of overall revenue. $74 million in winnings for FanDuel compared to $53.3 million for DraftKings in Ohio for July.
All right, good stuff. As always, Jim Gazzale from Legal Sports Report. The Jets' win total this year is 9.5, Jim. Are we over or are we under? What are the expectations? I got like 10 seconds for you.
I'm going over all the way to the Super Bowl, Mike.
All right, Jets, AFC champ. The conference odds for the Jets are, I can't get them. I'll do them on the way back. No, there they are. 8-1. 8-1. Play it for Jim. We'll be back after this.